Tonight we have Eric Opella, J. Allen Carnes, Glenn Hager, Deborah Medina, Frank Kushar, Joe Barton, and they are our candidates tonight, and you're going to hear a real good candidate forum tonight. Also, we have Bill Carson, Harlan Bounds, and Marty Hiles. These gentlemen are going to be asking the questions. So, we'll start with Mr. Barton.
Well, before I get started, I want to welcome our state senator here. He's been uncharacteristically quiet in the back of the room. We're glad to have you here, Senator. I am fighting some unknown affliction. I don't know if I had a flu shot, but I'm not sure that if I got the flu. But I've been back and forth to Washington 3 times this week and just got back from Fort Hood for my academy. So I'm just Academy Day interview, so I'm just going to sit down and speak a little bit and then turn it over to Mr. Kuchar. But if you can see this is my United States Congress voting card. It's got my name on it, and on the back it has the symbol of the House of Representatives, and it has your name on it, because it says Texas 6th District. This is my 15th one. I got elected first in 1984. I've used this card, or one's very similar to it, to vote in the neighborhood of 20 to 22,000 times in the last 29 years. My lifetime conservative record in Congress is in the 95% range, no matter how you define conservatism. In the contract with America in 1995, the Barton Tax Limitation Balanced Budget Amendment was one of the top items. It did not pass because it takes a 2/3 vote in the House and a 2/3 vote in the Senate. In the current Congress, I am a founding member of the Republican Study Committee, which is the conservative Republican group in the House. And I'm on their executive committee. So I meet every week with that group and once a month with the founders and the executive committee members. I am probably the most persistent thorn in the side of Secretary Catherine Sebelius on Obamacare. We found out that in the hidden code early on they had totally taken away your right to privacy. In fact, it was explicit that if you signed up for Obamacare, you were waiving your right to privacy, and the federal government had the right to use the information you provided in any way they wanted to without your permission or even without informing you. I put that up on the overhead and showed it to her and got her to commit to change it, withdraw it, and she has done so. That's one of the few positive changes we've been able to get in Obamacare. I am also the task force leader on a cancer research task force that has 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and our task for this year and next year is to look at the way we're conducting cancer research, how we're spending the dollars, and see if there's not a better way to do it. So I think it's a privilege to be a congressman. I don't take it for granted. I live here in Texas. I live about 15 minutes from here over in Ennis, Texas. I did live in Arlington for about 6 years after I remarried. My little 8-year-old boy is in the 2nd grade at Austin Elementary, and if he were here, he would be sitting in the front row telling me to shut up. It's boring, Dad. It's boring. So I doubt there are many undecideds in the room on who you're going to vote for Congress. But if you are undecided, I appreciate your vote. All I can promise is to do what I've been doing, which is to stay in touch with you here, be conservative in Washington, and try to be a spokesman for positive conservative values. One final point, I'm a charter member of the National Congressional Tea Party, and I claim that I was Tea Party before there was Tea Party. And I appreciate your vote, appreciate you participating in democracy. Democracy only works when people work, and it's good to see this many people.
I'm an old preacher, so I'm used to standing up and walking back and forth. I don't like being behind a pulpit or sitting down. Now, Texas is a great state to live in, unless you've got allergies, as you can tell. But even then, I can't think of another state I'd rather live in. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I'd like to thank the gentlemen of the Tea Party and the ladies who put this all together. It's important that citizens be informed. The reason we are in the mess that we're in this country today is because we have too many low information and uninformed voters making choices and basically canceling out the votes of those of us who do take the time to understand what's going on and what is important. So I want to thank you for your interest in the future of your country and for coming and being a part of this. I want to thank Joe for coming and being a part of this. I know he, as he said, bounced back and forth between Washington quite a bit, and his plate is rather full, but I appreciate him coming to be a part of this because this is what we should do. You have the right, as citizens, when you elect a representative, to hear from them, to be able to talk with them, and to hear those other opinions maybe so you can make decisions to who you want to represent you in the seat of our general government in Washington, D.C. And I appreciate the things that he has done over his career. He's done a lot of very conservative things. And I met with Joe back in May, I guess it was, and told him that I was going to run. I said, I don't know if that's politically the smart thing to do or not, to go and tell somebody that said, hey, I'm going to run against you, but I'm not a career politician, so I thought, well, that's the honorable thing to do. And I told him, I said, I have nothing personal against it. I have no personal axe to grind. And that I was going to run a campaign based upon the issues and upon his voting record, but nothing personal. And I think that's the way it ought to be, because all of us are tired of politics where it gets down and dirty. That's not what we need to have. But I told him that I was going to run because lately his votes were those votes on issues that I was concerned about that I felt were wrong. And so I said, I'm going to run against you. And I'm going to run those issues. And if you look at the voting record that Congressman Barton has lately, he's voted on some very good votes. And I commend him for it. He voted not to raise the debt ceiling lately. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate that. But there's been other votes and other things that I feel are contrary to our constitutional principles. And I will bring those up, and that's a distinction that I will make. I'm not a politician, but I have read and studied the Constitution quite a bit. I have put together a 12-week course, and I teach. It's on it. Those of you that, how many of you have taken the course that I teach? Would you say that I teach it pretty much on a college level? Was that what you would rate it at?
Yes.
The Constitution is important. And somebody says, what is your political campaign platform? This is it right here. And I've told people I have two criteria for any bill that I would vote on. One is it constitutional? If the bill does not square with the Constitution, if it does not have in it, or if it has in it things that are not authorized within the specific articles and enumerated powers of the Constitution, game's over, I don't vote for it. The second thing is, if it does pass that first test, will it further the freedom and the liberties of my grandchildren? That's why I'm in this race. I have two children. One is a Marine, not active duty, but I've been told there's no such thing as a former Marine unless you're dishonorably discharged. Right, Marty? Yeah. And I have 5 grandchildren. They don't have a prayer of a chance right now.
Amen!
And I want them to have a future. And so, if for nothing else, the second thing has to be, will this further enhance and secure their freedom and their liberties? Because if it doesn't, even if it's constitutional, I vote no. The bottom line is, when I leave this world, I want to be able to look Naheem, Huey, Reagan, spelled R-E-A-G-N, she's named after who you think, Caleb, and the youngest one, 5-month-old Dalen, in the eyes, and be able to tell them, Papa did everything he can and he could do to secure your freedom and your liberties. I want them to know that when I'm dead and gone and they're my age, I just turned 61, so I'm not looking for a 20, 30-year career in Congress, that they can look back and say, Papa did everything he could. And if we are able to help change this country, and I can have some small part in that, they can say, you know what, Papa missed ball games, concerts, events, and stuff like that, but thank God he did. That is my legacy that I want to leave and how I want to be remembered. And I hope you will help me to that end by supporting me if you feel that I could be your representative in Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Where's Morris?
I want to thank him for being so persistent. He called me and said, Deborah, will you come to this event and talk? And I said, I'm going to have a grandbaby. And I'm afraid to tell you yes, because she was due January 3rd, but on January 2nd, my daughter delivered a 9-pound, 8-ounce baby girl. The women in my family like to do it big. So I said, that's a 3-month-old. But I'm real happy to be able to be here with you today. They're both doing well. Many of you maybe first became acquainted with me in the governor's race 4 years ago. I have been a grassroots Republican Party activist since the early 90s. I am married. My husband, Noe, is home tending the farm, and he is not the farmer, so it really is a labor of love for him to stay home and let me travel. I feel very passionately about the issues that I'm going to get to talk with you about today. Knowing I have 2 grown children, our daughter Janice that I just mentioned, and her husband Chris live in Rosenberg, Texas. Chris works for One Subsea, so he's very engaged in the energy, oil and gas energy here. And our son Jacob and his wife Brianne are A&M grads who live in DeWitt County, where I hail, I guess grandparents hail from, 6th generation property there that they are making their home on. He works for Pioneer Natural Resources over in Victoria, and so he too is very involved in the oil and gas sector. Brianne is the 6th grade science teacher at Cuero Junior High. So we are proud parents of 2 young families that are getting a start, and I look at the future that they have and share your concern about it not being as prosperous as it ought to be.
That's right.
I have focused on what drew me to political issues was the pro-life issue. I've shared with many of you that the very first county convention I went to, the deacons of my church were the gentlemen who were leading the defeat of the Republican pro-life plank in the Republican Party platform. You'll remember back in the 90s, the Republican Party was having this dilemma about, are we going to be pro-life or not? And had I not seen it with my own eyes, would not have believed that. But it was that thing that helped me know that there were things going on in the public policy arena that I probably wouldn't agree with. And if my deacons were voting against life, the leaders were probably doing a lot of other things that I didn't want them to do. And if I wanted to change that, I better get involved. And so I've been really involved. But very quickly, that pro-life thing was what drew me. But I began to focus on what's happening with our money. How is it being spent? And my background, I'm a registered nurse, but I also have a business degree. Healthcare is a complex system, and I knew early on that I needed to have some real business management skills to do well. Was fortunate as a young nurse manager to work in a company that within just a very short period of time became the most profitable hospital system in the country, and learned to deliver efficient, effective service with limited budgets because people's lives depended on it. I think it's important that we bring some of that private sector thinking to the comptroller's office. I pointed out and have been traveling around the state for the last 5 years talking about the fiscal issues that our state faces, talking about limited government and sound fiscal policy management ideas, and talking about the importance of true private property ownership. But I want to share with you one more thing that I'd like you to consider. We've alluded to kind of the sea change that we have coming in leadership in Texas, but also the demographic change and the influx of more liberal thinking in terms of political persuasion and the work that Battleground Texas is doing and what the Democrats are going to be bringing in November 2010. If I've demonstrated anything over the course of the last 5 years, is that I can run an energetic campaign. I'd like you to consider the amount of energy and the various groups within our state that my candidacy will help appeal to. We need candidates on this statewide ballot that will appeal to rank and file Republican voters, but also to independent voters. I'm excited to be able to bring that energy, but I need your help in the primary to do that. I appreciate you voting Deborah Medina for Comptroller. Thank you. Oh, good.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Hager, and I'm running to be your next Texas Comptroller. For those of you that do not know me, I grew up in a small community called Hockley, Texas. I've told several folks, if you blink, you literally miss it. It's actually a long blink, but it's probably only about a 2-second blink. That's how long it is. Highway 290 coming out of Houston. You'll see Hockley, Hager Road, Hockley. That's about how big it is. My family moved there in 1846. Actually, my line got there late. We got there in 1848. So I grew up on a family farm. I grew up farming with my dad, my cousin, my grandfather, several men in the family. My grandfather on my mother's side is a Baptist preacher. So if I say amen or get long-winded, it comes by me naturally from what I grew up around. I want to say thank you for all of you being here today. I don't know if you noticed, but it was a gorgeous day outside today. A very beautiful day in Texas. There's hardly a day, regardless of whether it's rain, cold, shine, you wake up and you say, thank God I live here. Because I can tell you, Texas, and I'm preaching to the choir, is the best state in this nation.
Come on!
We actually, even though we had a lot of problems, especially in this state of DC, we still live in the best country in the world. I am married to a very strong Texas woman. Many of you have met my wife, Dara. If you haven't, she's a very strong individual. I could go around the rest of my life and I wouldn't find a better person for me. We have 3 young children. In March, my oldest daughter will be 9. My twins, my little girl and little boy, they'll be 6. So when I wake up, just like this morning, I made sure my wife could sleep a little bit late, made breakfast for my kids, said, I'll see you about 1 o'clock in the morning, and Dad will get up with you and we'll go to church together. So what grounds me is really, it's my family. Growing up just yesterday, I've been home from a long day of all week on the campaign trail and got home and nothing better than that little 6-year-old girl. Actually, she's not quite 6, almost 5 3/4, as she says, running up and just grabbing Dad. That makes the world go round. I grew up in a small family farming operation. My grandfather owned equipment dealerships, just 2. We have a grain elevator. And so I can tell you, who is Glenn Hager? He's a guy that's learned what it takes to make success. And I've said this before, with modest expectations, because in that world, you don't expect the sky. You just hope that you can continue to thrive where you go. You hope that you can continue to provide jobs for the people that work for you. I've been the person that's taken out the trash. I'm the individual that sweeps the floor. Still today, I'm the person that does that. Because I can tell you, I'm not going to ask somebody to do anything more than I'm not willing to accomplish. I've rolled up my sleeves. I grew up in a family where your handshake was your bond. Now, not everybody lives by that code, unfortunately. But that's a code I still believe in. I'm running for Texas Comptroller. In part, your comptroller, if you don't know, is the person who gives the revenue estimate to the legislature. The comptroller is the one that is your accountant. The comptroller, unfortunately, is the one that collects your taxes.
Boo, yes.
I agree with it.
Sorry.
But that person needs to be somebody who understands from a business perspective, a personal perspective, what it takes to balance a checkbook, what it takes to look somebody in the eye and say, congratulations, you have a job, and also look somebody in the eye in government and say, you're fired because you haven't done your job. I have been blessed to live in this state, and I want to make sure Texas continues to be a blessed place to call home. I believe in our Second Amendment rights. I believe I'm pro-life. This last session, I'll tell you real quick, that reminds me, I'll tell you about your Senator Birdwell. Those of you that do not know, I'll tell you a quick story on him, and hopefully I have a minute left to say it. I was on the Senate floor during the summer, and those fights on House Bill 2, which I carried in the state Senate, to improve women's health care and protect innocent life. And the first special session, if y'all don't remember, had all those folks there with the orange shirts. They didn't like us a whole lot. Rumors they were going to throw stuff over the gallery towards us. And at one point, my colleague behind me, Senator Huffman, she said, I don't know if you've been noticing, but that guy up in the gallery is staring at you, and he probably looks like he's about to throw something at you. We had a lull of a moment, and Brian came up and he said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she told him, and he said, don't worry, I got your back. Well, I knew what he really meant. He had my back, but he had my back because of what he had on his side. And that's what he said. He said, don't worry, I got your back because I'm packed. And so, thank you, Senator, for having my back this summer. My name is Glenn Hager, and I'm looking forward to talk to you more and looking to be your next sex comptroller. Thank you.
Okay, you got the cards, because you are back in and I'm not, and so I'm gonna keep it short. You know, the most important thing that you can do between now and March 4th, I'm gonna do my best job to make you wanna choose me. But the most important thing you can do between now and March 4th is really not pick one of us, or pick another candidate that's not here. It's to go get 5 neighbors that probably aren't gonna vote, and drag them to the poll. Because just like Ms. Medina said, the other side's working hard, and they're spending money, and they're getting people to the poll. Legal or otherwise, they're doing it. Go get 5 people and drag them to the poll. I'm running for Ag Commissioner. My name's Jay Carnes, and I'm running for Ag Commissioner because that table in the back of the room, and because the shirt on your back, we have a very independent food and fiber supply right here. We can say we're one of the only places in the world that can say we can feed and clothe ourselves. We have the most affordable, most secure, safest, and with my help, the most sustainable food supply of anywhere in the world. I'm a farmer running for Ag Commissioner. The only paying job I've really had my whole adult lifehood has been with my dad running our family farm operation. I got involved with politics, or I should say I got involved with ag policy because I got really